Hello, my name is Susan Dembo. I'm a licensed and board-certified acupuncturist, and I have a private practice in Oyster Bay. The purpose of this video is to educate you a little bit about acupuncture so that this amazing medicine, which helps so many people, can continue to grow. Although needles are the mainstay of acupuncture, there are lots of other modalities that are used. And tonight I'd like to show you one of those modalities. It's called Moxibustion. Renee was gracious enough to volunteer to be the patient tonight, so I'm going to demonstrate some various Moxibustion techniques on her. Renee has never had Moxibustion before, so I know she's very excited to see what it's all about. Moxa is a substance that comes from the common herb mugwort. The leaves of the mugwort plant are dried and ground up into a fluff, and when moxa is burned over the skin, it sends an infrared wave deep down into the tissues and it triggers a healing reaction. So I'd like to show you what moxa looks like, what the dried moxa looks like. It comes in many forms. There are many different grades of moxa. This moxa, you can see the difference in the colors. This dark moxa is a very rough grade that has even little pieces of twigs in it. So the color is a little lighter. This is a little bit more refined. And then this beautiful fluffy golden color, this is a very, very fine grade of moxa. And depending on which technique you're using, you would use a different grade of moxa. Moxa is very powerful therapeutically. Some of the things that it does is it relieves pain, it reduces inflammation, it improves the blood circulation and strengthens the immune system, it relaxes muscles, it regulates the autonomic nervous system, and it balances hormones. So the first technique of moxa that I'm going to show you is one of the more popular ones that's used. It's called cone moxa. So I've taken a medium grade of moxa and shaped it into a little cone like a Hershey's Kiss. And I'm going to use a little water just to get this to stick onto Renee. And I'm going to put a few cones on her. I'm going to light those cones with an incense stick, and as the moxa burns, it's going to send a penetrating infrared wave down into the tissues. And when the cone burns about 2/3 of the way down, I'm going to snatch it off and extinguish it in a pot of water. So Renee will not get burned. It never gets that low. It's just a smoldering heat. Once this one starts to burn down a little bit, I can light my second one. Renee, you're not feeling any warmth yet, right? No. Sometimes it takes a few rounds for the heat to register. I'm keeping an eye on the first one, starting to get a little low. So I'm going to snatch this one now. And normally what I would do is I would replace this with another one, and I would do several rounds of cones. Okay, I'm going to snatch this one. think you have the idea, so let's move on. So next I'm going to show you a variation of using moxa cones. This is called ginger moxa. I've taken a fresh ginger root and made little discs, and I'm going to place them on Renee. They're going to be cold right now. And then I'm going to put a cone on top of each disc. And again, I'm going to light the cones. However, this time, since the ginger acts as a barrier, I can let the cone burn all the way down and Renee's skin won't get burned. What ginger moxa does, as the moxa burns, it drives the ginger juice and the properties of the ginger deep into the abdomen. This is amazing for any kind of abdominal issue, for abdominal cramps. I've used this on people who have come in almost writhing in pain with abdominal spasms, and after about 20 minutes of ginger moxa, all of their muscles have relaxed. This has never failed me yet. So now I'm going to light the next one. And what I always do with ginger moxa, since I'm letting it burn down far, it can get a little warm, so I constantly shift the position so that one area doesn't get too hot. And again, after these burn down, I pick it up, I knock off the remaining black ashes, and then I put a fresh cone of moxa and I do several rounds. So this first one is almost burned all the way down. Normally I would do this until her skin turns a little pink. So even though these are burned all the way down, I kind of let it sit for a little bit because it still is pushing the heat through the ginger. So okay, so that's ginger moxa. So I'm going to take these off. They look like little hors d'oeuvres. The next technique that I'm going to show you is called a moxa stick. This is probably the most commonly used form of moxa because it's simple. It's very easy to do. This is unlike the loose fluff of moxa. This is a compressed stick of moxa. I light the end and it smolders kind of like a charcoal briquette, and this gets waved over the skin. This can be waved over any part of the body. It covers a wider area, but it takes a little longer for the heat to penetrate. I normally wouldn't use this on the abdomen. I would use cones, but I like the stick for a few things. I like it for tennis elbow, where it's kind of a confined area, and I can just keep waving it. So the heat on this also can start to build up, so I like to go close to the skin and then back off a little bit to let it cool. And the moxa stick I do probably a good 10-15 minutes until it feels that the heat has really penetrated deep into the joint. This is also great for, let's say, tendonitis in the thumb, carpal tunnel, right, where it's a relatively small area, and I can just keep going back and forth. It's very easy for me to control the level of heat because it's based on how far or close to the skin I am and how slow or fast I move the moxa stick. Do you feel the warmth from this? So this warmth you probably feel a little faster than the cone. So now I'm going to demonstrate my absolute most favorite way of using moxa. This technique is called rice grain moxa. It's strictly a Japanese technique. And for rice grain moxa, you have to use a very, very finely milled form of moxa. And I take a little piece and I have to roll it into a worm. So you start with a little piece, and I use 2 boards, and I roll and roll and just keep rolling and rolling till I get a thin little worm. Okay, so once it's rolled into a worm, you get the idea of what it is. I'm going to be taking a tiny little piece of moxa and placing it on various points on Renee's back, lighting it with an incense stick, and then extinguishing it with a bamboo tube so that she doesn't get burned. So first, I'm just going to mark a few points. And I know Renee has some low back pain, so I'm going to focus on the low back area. Okay. Now I'm going to take a little dot of Chinese burn ointment. It's called Shunko cream, and this acts as glue to hold the tiny piece of rice grain on her skin, and it also acts as a protection so that she doesn't get a heat blister. Okay, now I'm going to take one of my worms and I'm going to pinch off a tiny little piece of moxa the size of a grain of rice, and that's why it's called rice grain moxa. So I'm going to place a little piece on each point. So rice grain, since it's such a tiny little piece, it's a very pinpointed, laser fine beam of infrared heat. So this is good for a targeted area. You can use it on the back, but this is also great for tennis elbow, where you want to keep going over and over the same spot. Okay. So this is my bamboo tube that I'm going to use to extinguish the little rice grain. So I start by lighting it, and it starts to smolder, and then I'm going to cap it. And it burns down to a little pile of black carbon, and it's actually the carbon that sends the infrared wave into the body. Moxa, made from mugwort, is one of the few herbs that burns down to a black ash. Many herbs or many items, when they burn, they leave a white residue. going to do several rounds. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you come away with a greater appreciation of the different aspects of acupuncture. If you'd like any further information, feel free to give me a call. My number is 516-353-8876. And Renee, thank you so much.